Welcome to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be doing a narrative game of Death Guard versus Space Marines. And in this mission there's going to be only one objective, and that is kill the Great Unclean One. In Kugarth's absence and Mortarian's absence, there is a Great Unclean One trying to do Nurgle's work to try and bring them back. If he survives the 5 turns, it's victory to Nurgle. And if the Space Marines manage to put him down, it's victory to the Space Marines. We're going to be deploying in the Hammer and Anvil. Let's take a look at the armies. Okay, let's have a look at the forces of Nurgle, who are tasked with keeping the Great Unclean One alive. Starting with a unit of 10 Plague Marines, we've got 2 plasma guns, 2 blight launchers, 4 bolters, 1 sprayer. Champion has a heavy weapon and a plasma pistol, and they are led by the Foul Blightspawn. They'll be travelling in a Rhino. At the back here we have 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, followed by a unit of Chaos Spawn. Then we have 6 Death Shroud Terminators, who are led by the Lord of Contagion. He has an upgrade called Deadly Pathogen. Now normally you get extra attacks if you're within range of an effective objective marker, but for this game we're going to say if he's in range of the Great Unclean One, starting with 3 inches, 6 inches and 9 inches, he gets an extra 2 attacks and strength. And we have a second unit of 10 Plague Marines. In this one we have 2 melter guns, 4 bubotic weapons, 2 heavy weapons, and a champion with the same loadout, heavy weapon and plasma pistol, and of course another sprayer. And they're going to be led by the Nitrous Blightbringer, who can re-roll charges. He has an upgrade of Shamble Rots, which is -2 to charge. And they're going to ride in style in a Lam Raider, equipped with combi weapon, heavy bolters and soul shatter las guns. Then of course the main objective is keeping the Great Unclean One alive. So to do that we're going to have 10 Plague Bearers supporting him, who are led by Epidemus. He gives them a 4+ invulnerable save when leading. Then we have a unit of Nurglings, and then we have a Great Unclean One who has a flail and bile sword. Onto the Imperial forces tasked with killing the Great Unclean One, no other than the 1st Company Nova Marines. In our roster we have 5 heavy intercessors, 1 with a heavy bolter. We have 5 regular intercessors, Sergeant with a Thunderhammer, 5 Hellblasters, led by a Lieutenant with a Power Fist and Mastercrafted Bolter, a Gladiator Reaper, a Redemptor Dreadnought with a Macroplasma, 3 Blade Guard Veterans, led by a Captain, who has a Relic Shield and Power Weapon. At the back here we have a Drop Pod with Devastators, all equipped with heavy bolters, a unit of Inceptors with heavy bolters. We have a unit of Eradicators with a multi-melter, Eliminators with their snipers, a unit of Aggressors, Flamestorm Gauntlets, and then we have Rabute Gilliman with 5 of his 1st Company Terminators. With deployment done, the Space Marines, they've got quite a heavy right flank. We have Eradicators, the Gladiator Reaper, some Hellblasters, all behind cover. And then on this side we have the more elite. We have Rabute Gilliman with his Terminators, Blade Guard Veterans, a Redemptor Dreadnought, heavy intercessors. The snipers have deployed forward using their infiltrate ability, and we have some intercessors up in the building here. In reserve we have a Drop Pod, and we have Inceptors, and we also have a strategic reserve unit of Aggressors. Despite this being a 1st Company Nova Marines, Gilliman has ordered that they use the Gladius Task Force as their detachment for a bit of flexibility. Let's have a look at the Death Guard. Okay, deployment for Death Guard. We have a Plague Burst Crawler on the left-hand flank. We have a Plague Burst Crawler on the right-hand flank. They are looking to rain some mortar down onto the Space Marine forces. In the centre here, we have a Lam Raider packed with the punchy Plague Marines. They're looking to run a line down the middle or to the side. Behind them, we have the Plague Bearers hiding in the smoke and the miasma behind the Lam Raider. We have Epidemus in that squad as well. Chaos Spawn behind cover, and on the right hand side we have the Rhino with the shooty Plague Marines looking to run up that right hand side of the board. In Deep Strike we have Death Shroud Terminators, and of course we have the Great Unclean One, who's heard that he's looking to be assassinated, so he's looking for Death Guard to weaken the forces before he comes in and tries to clean up the rest of them. Let's see who gets 1st turn. Just before we do the 1st turn roll-off, of course I've forgotten about the Nurglings, who forward are deployed with their infiltrate ability, 9 inches away from the deployment zone. And the contagion that the Death Guard would bring in is Rattle Joint Agu, which is -1 to their armor save. Warlords are going to roll off for first turn. It's a Space Marine, first turn. In the command phase, Guilliman's going to be using his Author of the Codex ability, which is 2 Oath of Moment. First one being the Rhino, the second one being the Land Raider. With the first turn advantage in the hands of Guilliman, he's going to order the Devastator Doctrine in the hope of advancing these Eradicators to get a line onto that Land Raider to see if they can do some damage or potentially kill it before what comes out. Onto the movement phase. Redemptor Dreadnought making an advance roll for 2 inches, which gets him a nice line of sight onto that Rhino. The Gladiator Reaper looking for advance roll. He gets a 1. Eradicator's going to advance for 3. End of the movement phase. All the forces have moved up apart from the intercessors and the snipers. On the right hand side here, that advance roll was only enough to get 1 melter into the Land Raider. On the left hand side here, we have the Redemptor who advanced to get line of sight onto the Oath of Moment target of the Rhino. Starting with an overcharge of Macroplasma, D6+1 for 3 shots. Hitting on 3s. Oath of Moment, re-roll that. 3 hits. 3 wounds. 9 damage taken, go straight through AP4. Here's the Onslaught Gatling Cannon. Oath of Moment here. Re-rolling that. It's a miss. Now, winning on 5s. With death wounds, that is a dead Rhino. Does he blow up? No. With the Plague Marines disembarked from the destroyed Rhino, they are now battle shocked. And here's the mortal wounds. Only 1 is a mortal wound. They are fine. Oath of Moment target now goes to the Land Raider. Hazardous check on the Redemptor. He takes 3 mortal wounds. 9 wounds left on him for his Macroplasma blowing up in his face. Let's see what the Sergeant of the Eradicator Squad can do. Taking 1 shot into the Land Raider. Hits. Needs a 5. Can re-roll because of his ability. Doesn't wound. Gladiator Reaper unloading all of its guns into the Nurglings. Twin Gatling Cannons. Sustain hits 2 because it's battle line. Oath of Moment reroll. Sustain hits 2. Wounding on 2s. Twin linked. 3 devastating wounds and 7 met saves to make on the Nurglings. 6 up invulnerables. 2 dead, 1 left with 2 wounds, and that's before the rest of the guns fire. Rest of the guns go in and finish the unit. The Death Guard look to retaliate. They also go up to 2 command points, going into the movement phase. The Plague Marines that got out the Rhino, no longer battle shocked. End of the movement phase. The Plague Bear Crawlers have moved up into the cover. The Plague Bearers have moved forward to create a nice pocket for the Great Unclean One to come in next turn. On this side, we've got the Land Raider who moved to 10 inches and disembarked using the ability. It's going to get a nice charge onto there and some sprayers in that squad. On the right hand side, the Chaos Spawn have moved behind cover with the Shooty squad looking to try and get line of sight, but sadly only the Plasma and Blight Launcher behind this corner here can see. 1 CP spent for rapid ingress for a drop pod to come raining in. The doors slam open off the drop pod, outburst the heavy bolters in support, ready for the impending Death Guard assault. Land Raider declaring its shots. The Soul Cannons are going to go into the Gladiator Reaper, who will pop smoke for 1 CP. The rest of the shots, the Havoc Launcher, Heavy Bolter and Combi Bolter, are going to go into the Eradicators. Hitting on 4s now. Hit 3 times. Winning on 3s. 2 wounds. Saving on 5s now because of the smoke providing cover. Both go through. D6+1. 7 wounds remaining on the Reaper. Heavy Bolter into the Eradicators. Sustain hits 1. 1 hit. Doesn't wound, but twin linked. Doesn't wound. Combi Bolter hitting on 4. Misses. And the Havoc Launcher D6 shots for 4 shots. 3s to hit. 3 hits. 5s to wound. 2 wounds. And 3 up saves. Takes 1 damage on the Eradicator. Plague Marines trying to punish that Reaper even more. They're going to spend a CP on Grenade here. 6 dice on a 4+ is a mortal wound. It's a good grenade. Only 3 wounds left on the Reaper. Rest of the squad now going to fire both melters into the Reaper. Everything else to try and do some more damage to the Eradicators. Melter guns here, hitting on 4s because of the smoke. 1 hit, 1 miss. Winning on a 5. It wounds. AP4, saving on a 6 here because of the cover from smoke. Goes through. This would be D6 plus 2. That is a dead Reaper. Exploding on a 6. No. Rest of the squad fired. Managed to kill 2. Hazardous check on this guy with the bell. He takes 3 mortal wounds. The Plague Burst Crawler is going to fire its mortar into the Hellblasters to try and soften up the anti-tank that the Space Marines have. This would be D6 plus 3 plus an extra 1 for blast. Hitting on 4s because of indirect. Lethal hits. 1 lethal and 1 wound roll. 2s to wound. That's 2 wounds. 3 up saves because of cover. They hold. Second Plague Burst Crawler looking to rinse and repeat. 7 shots this time, Noble's number, looking for lethal hits. Okay, 2 lethals, needed 2. 3 wounds. 3 up saves. 1 dose. They're now battle shocked due to the ability of the Plague Burst, and 1 is removed. The Plague Marines on this side of the board start to engage the Blade Guard veterans. Only a Plasma and Blight Launcher can see those 2. Everything else is going to go into the Redemptor. 1 shot overcharging from the Plasma gun. And it misses. Hazardous check. He blows himself up. Blight Launcher. 1 hit, 1 miss. And it wounds. 3 up save because of cover. And he takes 2 damage. Rest of the bolters and Plasma and Blight Launcher into the Redemptor. Some lethal hits went through, but saved them all on his 2 up save. Into the charge phase, we have a 7-inch charge into the Eradicator. They're looking to get this because of the heavy bolter cover fire. And they're in. 12-inch charge to be made from this squad into the Blade Guard veterans. They don't make it. After the pile-in and fight, the Eradicator gets absolutely decimated, and they're just outside of 3 inches for any consolidation. End of turn 1 for the Death Guard. Let's see how the Space Marines can retaliate. In the command phase for the Space Marines, turn 2, they got to 1 CP after spending 1 for rapid ingress and 1 for smoke. Some big decisions to be made here. No doctrine is going to be called this turn. Battle shock is now removed from the Hellblasters. Declaring double oath. The first target is going to be the Plague Marines on this side, and the second unit will be that other Plague Marine squad. 1 CP spent on adaptive strategy on these Hellblasters, so they can now go into the Devastator doctrine to try and get advance and shoot into those Plague Marines. End of the movement phase. The Dreadnoughts pushed up on the left here. The Blade Guard veterans have gone through the building. Heavy Intercessors push into the middle. Snipers staying still. And Gilliman and the Terminators to start a move to the middle, preempting where the Great Unclean One's going to arrive. The Heavy Bolters remain stationary to get the heavy keyword to go hitting on 3s. Hellblaster's got a 6 on the advance. They've got a nice line of sight into the Plague Marines there. And then the Intercessors remained at 24 inches away into the Plague Marines, and now will benefit from the heavy keyword. While we're in the end of the movement phase, strategic reserves have arrived. On this side of the board, we've had a 3-inch deep strike using their ability into the Oath of Moment target and to block out any potential charges into a weaker unit. The Death Guard retaliate with a rapid ingress on the Death Shroud Terminators, a unit of 6, dropping behind the cover, behind the Primarch. Inceptors starting the shooting phase, unloading their assault bolters into the Plague Marines. Oath of Moment, sustain hits 2. We're going to fish. Here's the fishing roll. 3 6s after fishing, so that's sustain hits 2 for each one. Strength 5, toughness 5, 4s to wound, twin linked. Here's the twin link reroll. 11 saves to be made at AP -1. 4 ups. 7 Plague Marines dead at damage 2. More heavy bolters next to fire, pounding the squad. Hitting on 3, sustain hits 1. Oath a moment. Here's the reroll for Oath. Strength 5, toughness 5, 4s to wound. 10 saves at damage 2 to be made. AP1, 4 ups. And with that, the Plague Marines and the character are decimated by the bolters, meaning the Oath a moment goes to the second Plague Marine squad. Hellblasters are going to overcharge and fire what they can into the Land Raider. Hellblaster fired with the help of lethal hits, did 4 damage total. This is the hazardous check. One dies, means he fires again. 2 hits, 1 wound. Failed. Down to 10 wounds on the Land Raider, and it's also at this point I realised they have the assault keyword, so I'm going to reimburse the CP to make them shoot and advance. On this side of the board, with that CP now reimbursed, the sergeant's going to throw a grenade. So 6d6 on a 4+. It's another good grenade. 4 mortal wounds inflicted, 2 Plague Marines dead. The only guy that can see is this one here, so he's going to fire his heavy bolt pistol, hitting on a 3, which hits, doesn't wound. The aggressors are going to light up their gauntlets and fire their flamers into it, d6+1, each one. Auto hitting, straight to wound, winning on 5s, twin links. Here's the twin link reroll. 6 saves to make, should be AP 0, but because of their ability, they get +1 AP, so 4 ups on the Plague Marines. 2 Plague Marines get toasted. Everything from the Redemptor into the Plague Marine squad. We're not going to overcharge. Redemptors all fired, 2 more Plague Marines died, only rolled a 1 for a number of shots on the Macroplasma, and everything else seemed to bounce. Eliminators scope in on the Chaos Spawn and take their shots. Hitting on 2s because they stayed still. Devastating wounds now. For flat 3, missed that one, and 2 doesn't wound. So 3 devastating wounds on the Chaos Spawn. 5 up, feel no pain for the devastating wounds. Takes 2 damage. The heavy intercessors, the ones that can see, are going to try and plink off some more wounds off the Spawn. After the heavy bolters and the heavy assault rifles fire in, killed 1, and he's left with 3 wounds remaining on the other. With Gilliman and the Terminators out of line of sight, including the rapid ingress, they cannot get a bead on them. The last unit to shoot will be the intercessors into that Plague Marine squad. Hitting on 2s because they're heavy. Winning on 5s. 5 says to make, AP 1. So those last bolt rounds, armour proving tough, didn't go through. Next is the charge phase. Redemptor going first with an 8-inch. He makes it. Blade Guard veterans with a 5-inch charge. They're in. With that Redemptor going in, no room for the aggressors to fit. Hard decision over this side. Gilliman with a 9-inch charge into the Death Shroud Terminators. Doesn't make it. With the pile-in done, the Plague Marines activate their Fight First ability from this dude. Also, the Blade Guard veterans are going to select reroll 1s on their saving throw. So Plague Marines with their Plague Knives fighting into the Blade Guard veterans. They unleash the Plague Knives. They're in contagion range now, so -1 to the save. 6s are lethal. Would be forced to wound, but now 3 because of -1 toughness. 4 up saves. Rerolling 1s. 1 takes 2 damage. 1 on 1 wound left. Foul Blight Spawn to fight next. He's got 4 attacks with his knives. 3 hits. 2 wounds. Kills it. Does not kill it. Can reroll 1s on the saving throw. So here's the reroll. Okay, he does die, and the other one takes a wound. Blade Guard veterans and the Redemptor Dreadnought to hit back. I'm not going to activate the Captain ability. Rest of the Plague Marines wiped, and the character. Blade Guard veterans have consolidated into the Chaos Spawn. Chaos Spawn to hit back. The Chaos Spawn retaliates and kills 1 Blade Guard veteran. End of turn 2 for the Space Marines. No sign of the Great Unclean One yet. On to the Death Guard. Death Guard got up to 2 command points. Chaos Spawn does D3 wounds healing, but that will put him up to full anyway, so he goes to full wounds. Chaos Spawn runs back behind the rock and falls back, allowing the sprayers to be able to open up and shoot at the Blade Guards. The Death Shroud move their 4 inches and close the gap between them and Gilliman, making a 5-inch charge. Plague Bearers move through the ruins and try to bead on a target onto the Hellblasters for a charge. Land Raiders reverse slightly to allow the Plague Burst Crawler to fit on this side. However, he's just outside of 12 of his sprayers, but it does mean he can fire now with that indirect. And finally, the main objective, the Great Unclean One summons in through the warp and sits in the back line of the Death Guard. Plague Burst Crawler declares all of its shots into the target in front of it, starting with the sprays. D6 shots. 8 shots, automatically hitting, anti-infantry 2+. 5 4-up saves to make. Oh, only one goes through. Plague Best Mortar, D6 plus 1. Apologies, D6 plus 3. Hitting on 3s. No indirect now. Lethal hits, winning on 2s. 1 save, fails it. Kills 1 Blade Guard veteran. Final gun, Heavy Slugger. Winning on 3s. No wounds. Everything from the Land Raider into the Inceptors. Land Raider finished firing, killed 2 Inceptors, onto the second Plague Best Crawler into the same target. Inceptors are down, finished it off with the Stubber. The last unit to shoot for the Death Guard is the 2 Death Shroud Terminators and their sprayers, just in range of the Terminators. This will be D6 shots at anti-infantry 4+. D6 shots. 6, 4+. 2 2-up saves. Make them both. Big charge here. Lord of Contagion and his unit into Gilliman for a 5. Oh, Snake Eyes. CP reroll. Make it. Plague Bearers charging into the Hellblasters for a 7-inch charge. Nurgle's number. Don't get it. Onto the fight phase. Just before we do the pile-in, 2 CP spent. Terminators are going to heroically intervene. Need to roll a charge, and they make it. Pile-in done. 6 out of the 7 Death Shroud make it into base with Gilliman. 1 CP spent here for sustain hits 1. Just the Death Shroud here. Lord of Contagion will go second. This is 20 strike profile, sustain hits 1, hitting on 2s. And when they're led, we're going to re-roll those misses. Okay, these are the hits. These are the lethal and sustained, and these are the sustained going into the pile. This would be winning on 5s, but is now winning on 4s due to the -1 toughness. Force the wound. 4-up saves on Gilliman. Gilliman goes down with 20 damage done. However, he goes down for the phase and we have to roll at the end. Terminators to fight back. Power Fist from the Terminators into the Death Shroud. Hitting on 3s. Now there should be 3s to wound, but because of the Death Shroud's ability, if the weapon is stronger than the toughness, then it's -1 to wound, so 4s. 5 4-up invulns to make. 1 Death Shroud Terminator killed. Sergeant takes a strike with his power sword. Drops 1. Doesn't wound. End of the fight phase means the Armour of Fate kicks in on a 3+. He gets back up, not in engagement range. He's up. 6 wounds left. End of turn 2 for the Death Guard. Space Marines have more bodies on the board, but they need to get to the demon at the back to finish their objective. Space Marine turn 3. They activate the Tactical Doctrine to allow fallback, shoot and charge. They also go up 1 CP. The Oath for Moment target is going to be the Death Shroud Terminators. The second Oath target is going to be the Great Unclean one. 1 CP spent on Adaptive Strategy to allow him to go into the Devastator Doctrine so he can advance and shoot. Trying to get a bead down that line there. The Dreadnought moves around and he's advancing for a 5. End of the movement phase for the Space Marines. They are closing in on the demon at the back. The Terminators have fallen back outside of engagement range so they can fall back, shoot and charge this turn. We have the Devastator squad moving around, trying to get some shots onto the Oath of Moment target. Intercessors staying still so they can get some more shots onto them. Aggressors advance through the building. The Dreadnoughts moved up, the Captain's moved up. Gilliman is making a beeline for the demon onto the shooting phase. Terminator Stormbolters go into the Death Shroud. This is the Oath of Moment target, so these will hit on 2s. Re-rolling. Winning on 5s. 2 2-up saves. Both fine. The Assault Cannon spins up, 6 shots. Winning on 4s and dev wounds. 2 devastating wounds. Need to make the save. The Assault Cannon does 2 devastating wounds and he saved the last one, so 1 wound left on that guy. Devastated squad. Open up the heavy bolters. Sustain hits 1, hitting on 4s. And before we do the Oath of the Moment reroll, we're going to use their ability to change that to a 6. This is the Oath of the Moment reroll. There's the hits. There's the sustained. Here's the wound roll. 5's to wound. 3 up saves to make. Fail 1. Kills that one on 1 wound. The sergeant with his grav pistol. Hits. Wounds. 3 up save to make. He makes it. Hellblaster squad firing to the same unit. Overcharging. Oath of the Moment. So 3 lethal so far. Here's the Oath of the Moment. Oh, would you believe it? 5 saves to make on their invon. 4+. Ooh. 3 hazardous tests to be made for the Hellblasters. All fine. The mastercrafted bolter from the lieutenant. Double lethal. 2 3 up saves at damage 2. 1 takes 2 wounds. The eliminators scope in on the Lord of Contagion, hitting on 2s. All hit. Wounding on 5, 6s devastating wounds. Oh. And with those devastating wounds, that's flat 3 each, which is a dead Lord of Contagion. Next to shoot is the Intercessors, trying to finish off the Oath of the Moment target, so he becomes the next Oath for the Redemptor Dreadnought. Bolter fire rains down on the Death Shroud. Oath of the Moment. Drop the dice there. Winning on 5s. 3 up saves on the Death Shroud. Ooh. With 3 failed saves, that kills 1. And 1's got 1 wound left. Nearly everything fired. The only thing left is the drop pod missile launcher. D6 plus 1. For 6 shots. Hitting on 3s. Oath of the Moment. Here's the reroll. Winning on 5s. 2 wounds. 2 up saves or death. Death. The drop pod who could. Moving on to the Redemptor Dreadnought on the next Oath of the Moment target. Overcharging the Macroplasma for number of shots. Oh, D6 plus 1. 3s to hit. Oof. 5s to wound. 3 wounds. The Great Unclean one. 3 4-up invons to make. Oh, fails 2. Takes 6 damage, but we've got 6 up feel no pain. 6 up feel no pains. It goes down to 16 wounds. Hazardous check for the Redemptor. He's fine. Firing all the rest of the guns. After firing the remaining guns, the Icarus, the Bolter and the Gatling done 2 more wounds. He still stands. Death Guard turn 3. Up to 4 CP now. Need a big return here. There's a lot of bodies on the board. End of the movement phase for the Death Guard. So the Plague Burst Crawlers pushed up to try and finish off the Hellblasters. Land Raiders got line of sight onto the Redemptor. Plague Bearers have moved up in case he doesn't kill it to make a charge. And the Great Unclean one has pressed forward. This side of the board we've got the Captain hiding around here, about to be charged by the Chaos Spawn, and the sprayers on this Plague Burst Crawler. Land Raider. Soul Shatter Las Cannon, all the other guns into the Redemptor. 3 hits. 2 wounds. It's a 4-up save here for the Redemptor. Makes them both. Heavy bolters. Lethal hit. And sustained. Doesn't wound, just 1 save here to make. He's fine. The rest of the weapons fired on through but did no damage. Onto the Plague Burst Crawler. It's going to fire its mortar into the Redemptor and everything else into the Captain. Mortar, D6 plus 3. Hitting on 3s here. 1 lethal. Redemptor's on a 4-up save here because of the Contagion, -1 to your save, and AP 1. Fails both. Should be 2 damage, but reduced. 5 wounds left on the Redemptor. These are the D6 sprayers into the captain. Torrent and anti-infantry 2+. AP 1 and in contagion, so this will be on his 4 plus invulnerable save. Oh, makes them all bar 1, takes 1 damage. The heavy stubber next. 2 wounds. 2 saves. 1 damage total. Firing everything from this Plague Bearer's Crawler into these. 2d6 sprayers. Torrent. It's a 5 up save here because AP 1 and the contagion. 1 dies, 1 takes a wound. On a 3+, he gets to shoot. Does shoot, he's going to shoot the Great Unclean One. 2 shots into the Great Unclean One, overcharged. 2 hits. No wounds. Mortar next. 1 lethal. 2 hits. 2's to wound. 3 wounds. 3 saves to make. Fails 2. That's the unit wiped. On a 3+, they're going to fire the Great Unclean One. 1 makes the shot. Let's do that now. Hits. Double wound. 2 4+s to make. Makes 1, fails 1. 2 damage taken. 2 6 up, feel no pains. 2 damage taken. He's down to 12 wounds. And the rest of the stubbers go into the lieutenant. There's the wound roll. 2 wounds. Makes them both. Great Unclean One next. He's going to put his vomit and his flail, which is 6 inches in range, into the Redemptor. I can also select a unit to be -1 toughness at the end of the movement phase, so we're going to do that now. Plague fail, D6 +1. Hitting on a 3. 2 wounds through. Redemptor's -2 toughness at the minute because he's in contagion range, and he's because of the Great Unclean One's ability. The flail is AP 2. With the contagion, this makes it basically AP 3, so 5 up save on the Redemptor. Makes 1, fails 1. 1 damage taken. Down to 4 wounds. What's left on him? Now for the vomit. D6 +3 shots. For 4. This is torrent, so straight to wounds for 5s to wound. 3 wounds. This is a 5 up save here because it's AP 2 and in contagion. 3 go through. Which means he's down to 1 wound left. And with the end of the shooting, the Plague Bearers or Epidemias don't have a ranged attack or grenade keyword. 1 wound left. We're going to go into the charge phase next. Looking for Plague Bearers into the Redemptor and the spawn into the captain. 2-inch charge for the Plague Bearers. They're in. Chaos Spawn goes for his charge. He's in. Through the ruins, we have a 4-inch charge into the lieutenant. He makes it. We're doing tank shock over here for 1 CP. 2 mortal wounds done, down to 3 wounds remaining. Plague Bearers swinging first with their lethal hits. Redemptor's Dreadnought is now dead. On a 6, he explodes. Doesn't explode. Chaos Spawn into the captain, D6 +2 attacks. Hitting on 4s. Winning on 3s because of -1 toughness. 2 saves to make on his invuln. Fails them both. He's gone from 5 wounds to 1 wound remaining on the captain. The captain's just fought and he's just killed the Chaos Spawn, and he'll consolidate into the Plague Bearers. Forgot to mention on this side of the board, nothing happened over here. Start of Space Marines turn 4, up to 2 CP. The orders are still clear. Bring it down. O for moment target stays the same. Going to be advancing as much as we can through this part. Now that the tactical doctrine is active, Gilliam has moved his 8 inches, looking for a big advance. For a 6. Gilliman toes into the cover. The aggressors push up just in front of the Plague Bearers to get 12-inch range onto the Great Unclean One. Terminate's moved up, advancing 4, a 1. Lieutenant's going to stay locked up in combat. If he falls out, he'll get overwatched. And the final movements of the movement phase. The intercessors advance down, and the heavy bolters have advanced as well. Sniper's staying still to try and get a shot onto Epidemus to try and remove his 4+ invulnerable save, going into the shooting phase. 3 shots from the eliminators into Epidemus. Change of plan, we've got a line of sight into the Great Unclean One. 3 shots from the eliminators into the Great Unclean One. Winning on 6s and dev wounds. 1 devastating wounds for 3 damage and they don't wound. 3, 6 up feel no pains. Takes 3 wounds. He goes from 12 wounds down to 9. The aggressors firing their flame gauntlets into the Great Unclean One. D6 plus 1 each one. Winning on 6s. 2 4+ saves. Makes them both. Straight into the charge phase. Everything else is advanced and can't shoot. Gilliman has a 5+ charge. Going to spend 1 CP to overwatch with the flail and the vomit. Here's the charge. He makes it with a 10. Here comes the overwatch from the vomit. D6 plus 3. This is torrent here, so automatically hit. Looking for 5s to wound. 3 wounds. This is on his imp-on. Damage 2 apiece. Saves 2. Takes 2 damage. 4 wounds remaining on Gilliman. Here comes the flail. D6 plus 1. Hitting on 6s. Nothing. He's through. The next charge we have is the aggressors, which they make it. And then the heavy intercessors, which they make it. Gilliman selects the Hand of Dominion, which has 7 attacks, hitting on 2s with O for moment. 2 lethals there. Here's the Oath reroll. 4 lethal hits, winning on 3s. It's a full house. 4 up invulnerable saves. 5 fails, meaning 20 damage total. 6+ feel no pain or death. On a 6, he explodes. And with that, victory to the Space Marines, led by none other than Rabute Gilliman.